1947, we have received and analyzed between 1 and 2,000 reports that have come to us from all kinds of sources.
Fleet of them. What's on the ASA? My gosh. That's not LNS stuff, is it? It's not. I don't understand. Well, if there's anything.
We have spacecraft from another species.
We do, yeah.
How many?
Quite a number.
Unidentified Anomalous Podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to the Unidentified Anomalous Podcast, episode 24. I'm Tom Thompson, a.k.a. Cortex Zero. Digby Furno is not joining us today because he's visiting family in the wonderful, beautiful United Kingdom. However, not going it alone today. Our good friend, part of New Paradigm Media Group, Paul Simpson, is here to be in the co-pilot seat today. Paul, what's up, buddy?
Not much, my friend. Not much. It's good to see you again. Always a pleasure.
Good to see you too, man. I'm really happy that you suggested that you would be able to come on the show today, because you already know the answer is always going to be yes if you want to hop in and join in. Today, is a little different because normally for this show, we like to have a lot of different things prepared, different segments, clips, footage, images, and such, and we have a couple things. But after the events of the last week, between the AARO report and what happened to me on the night of the 7th, I felt that it was a good idea to run this episode straight from the heart and straight from the brain. And I have a lot to say today. I'm known at this point for my time in the UFO community as being someone who likes to spread positivity, and I try to stay away from the drama, and I like to build bridges and not burn them with people. But I will admit that today I'm extremely angry at the government. I'm angry at the Pentagon. I'm angry at AARO. And I've had enough of this shit. I've had enough. I've really had enough. So I want to open up the show. I typed up a statement after reading through as much of the AARO report as I could get through. And it's very simple. It's very simple, but I think it will get straight to the point. And it goes like this. Over the past week, the Pentagon and its UAP task force, AARO, released a report that, in my honest opinion, reeks of deceit, inaccuracy, and dangerous manipulation. The top brass at the Pentagon and the previous leaders of AARO should be brought to task for this blatant effort to discredit whistleblowers, trample on the truth, and dismiss solid evidence. It's a clear strategy to dodge congressional and public oversight, further burying the truth under layers of obfuscation. There are, indeed, dedicated and honest individuals within AARO and the larger government. And the blame for these deplorable decisions rests not on their shoulders, but squarely on their leadership. The public is not ignorant. We know of the classified evidence presented to AARO that flatly contradicts their report. Even senior members of Congress have been privy to portions of this data. This report is a slap in the face to every citizen, every witness of a UFO, and every experiencer, not just across the United States, but across the entire planet. An affront to the serious issue that concerns not just Americans, but all of our human species. We must stand up and demand that Congress acts more decisively to enforce transparency around the UFO/UAP subject on behalf of not only the people of the United States, but of the entire planet. Paul, how do you feel
Yep.
about the report?
Absolutely. The report was terrible. It's just a giant gaslight, is what it is. It's basically telling everybody, don't believe your eyes, don't believe what you've seen, don't believe all the reports, don't believe Jimmy Carter. I mean, don't believe so many people, and they are just crazy. And we're telling you that nothing is, there's nothing to see, and it's an absolute joke. So, but the first thing I noticed about the report, like I was reading through it, is that it was just hugely specific language. Like they used certain terms to kind of obfuscate the future. So if it ever comes back, they can say, "Oh no, we weren't talking about ultra terrestrials. We weren't talking about interdimensional beings. We were only talking about extraterrestrials." And so it's kind of like a self cover. So the language was super specific and super legalese, and it was just a gaslight. I just feel gaslit is way it comes down to.
I agree with you. I've talked to a lot of people in private about the report. I had a couple phone conversations since it came out. We're gonna play a little game. Okay, we're gonna play a little game. We're gonna just choose any specific category of UFO evidence, right? So let's go with photos, right? So let's dive into the vast ocean that is UFO photography, of which we have decades to look at, right? Since literally the advent of photography. And you'll find yourself amidst a collection that would easily surpass over 500 photos. But we're going to use the number 500 just to keep the math simple, okay? So we'll streamline our exploration by starting with that figure of 500. Imagine if just half of these snapshots and recordings are fabrications, okay? Which there are a lot of that. We're still left with 250 pieces that might just capture genuine unexplained phenomena. Now, consider if only a mere 10% of this filtered collection holds authentic evidence of UFOs. That still leaves us with 50 photos that could potentially rewrite our understanding of everything around us, our place in the universe, etc., right? And even under the skeptical assumption that 99% of what we have encountered are elaborate hoaxes in this area, particularly photography, we're left with 5 photos still standing resilient against that disbelief. So let's flip the script though, okay? Let's get to the people. Let's ponder the credibility of countless witnesses, including the meticulous accounts that have come from military officials, pilots, astronauts, policemen, people that have been put into positions of trust. It's highly improbable that every single one of these observers fabricated their experiences, especially in accounts that involve 2 or more people seeing the same thing at the same time, of which we have plenty. If we play with the numbers, again, say 50% were untruthful for whatever reason, we're still in possession of 250 testimonies that could hold water. Should the deceit rate soar to an unreasonable, unrealistic 90%, that still leaves us with 50 genuine encounters. And that's just if we're playing with that 500 number, because it's way higher for photos, videos, reports. It's much higher than that. And if you merge these analytical paths, it shines a light on a significant collection of credible sightings. By my estimation, approximately 30% of these cases might hold veritable insights into extraterrestrial / non-human visitation, serving as a sort of mathematical testament to the truth. The challenge lies not in proving the existence of UFOs, but in sifting through the mix to separate the real from the counterfeit. It's very muddy out there. Building a statistical model for UFO sightings could further refine our understanding, offering a framework to evaluate the statistical significance and correlation between observer reports. We need better science attached to this. Is it really realistic to you, Paul, as someone who has worked in government, as someone who is as fascinated in this topic as I am and everybody in the chat? And hello to everybody in the chat. I see Heather, I see Sandy, Leviathan. I love you guys. Thank you for being here with us. And Paul's actually not in the chat to
Yeah.
usually does when he's here. So it's even better, right? Do you like it just as just a regular guy, right? Analytically speaking, is it realistic at all for you to think of all of these witnesses that over all the decades, right? Let's just start with the 40s. Let's just start at Roswell and go from Roswell to now. Is it realistic for you to come to the conclusion that over 90% of those people are full of shit? Is that really realistic?
Not in the least. And actually, you're well written and well done speech. It reminded me of Stanton Friedman, the late great Stanton Friedman, because he was talking about is the U.S. government covering something up? And he goes, I have proof right here. He holds up a piece of paper and it's heavily redacted, and the conclusion of the paper was that out of the 12,000 something, we found only 5%, I think, were just unidentified and unexplained at this time. And they were using that as an excuse to say, yeah, there's nothing to see here because only 5% we can't explain. But Stanton Friedman looked at it the other way. He basically said, okay, that's 749 cases. Of those 749 cases that you have no explanation for, he goes, that's a lot of cases. He goes, and so this is only 1 year. So the 749 that you investigated, you have no explanation for. What are those? And that to me is just like exactly the same. We're in the same boat we were when Stanton Friedman was around doing that. So um, yeah, there's no way that the thousands and thousands and it's actually probably to millions right at this point as far as the number of
No question.
reports, the number of photos, and even those that are fake. But um, actually, I think Chris Mellon put it best. Let me read you his quote because it was
Yeah.
magnificent. Um, he's responding to a Twitter feed, and he says, "I fully concur with Robert's comments regarding the ineptitude of the AARO historical report. It is pathetic." He goes, "Anyone that has read a few basic books about the history of UAP can see that. I believe it not only neglects critical events, but it also contains inaccuracies in other statements. For example, I am confident that many military personnel, such as the F-16 pilots in the famous Stevensville, Texas UAP case, have been compelled to sign NDAs covering UAP. This report is prompting me and others to redouble our efforts to assist Congress and the public in learning the truth." Lou Elizondo went on record saying something similar to that. That is just not complete. Gary Nolan, even Eric Weinstein, who is kind of hit or miss on the UAP topic, has come forward and saying this is like a second grader's cursory view, 10 million foot view of the subject. And it's just not acceptable. I mean, you're talking about the Pentagon. I mean, you're talking about these are supposed to be the creme de la creme of America and the government and doing things the right way. And it's just such a cursory and such a terrible, terrible take on it. So everybody's got every right to be mad. Like it's time to be angry about that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I like you just said it. You just said it. I was driving home earlier because usually on Sundays I'd go out and get something from the store or whatever I need for the house. Grab something caffeinated, get myself all charged up, and then we do the show. And I'm driving home, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm fucking pissed. I'm pissed, honestly. I'm not losing sight of the moral foundation that my UFO research stands on, where I want to have respectful dialogue with people that do disagree. I want to be able to have genuinely um, reasonable and productive conversations with people that might have different ideas and different opinions and such. But this report is bullshit.
It's a slap in the
bullshit.
face. Yeah.
It is. It's like they treat us like we're little kids. They have to hold our hand. We need chaperones.
Mhm.
And they contradict themselves. They say there's no cover up.
I've told you that before. The government, like the people in the CIA and NSA and all the government agencies, they think they are the parents in the other room. Like we can't talk in front of the children.
Yeah.
The other thing that would drive me crazy is that they're having a press conference and they're handpicking who they want to report this to. So in other words, only those that are going to toe the line and not actually everybody. So nobody could ask questions that were outside of the narrative line, I guess. Because if you had groups like News Nation, which was excluded, that would have been Ross Coulthard. I'm sure he would have asked questions, but they
Yeah,
didn't allow
good
that.
ones too.
So,
Reasonable ones, right?
Yeah.
This is a clear attempt to control the narrative, and so this is a good time for me to read the official statement from Lou Elizondo. He said today the Pentagon and its current UAP investigative program AARO issued a public report that is intentionally dishonest, inaccurate, and dangerously misleading. I hold the Pentagon leadership and former AARO leadership accountable for this obvious attempt to diminish and embarrass whistleblowers, to undermine the truth and ignore the evidence. Their goal is clearly to minimize congressional and public scrutiny and to cover up the truth. To be clear, I do not hold most of the people who work within AARO to be accountable, as they are not all responsible for their leaders' decisions. I said something similar, so I can very much appreciate that. It resonates. Many of us who have worked the UAP topic for the government are aware of the ample classified evidence that has been provided to AARO and contradicts this report. Senior members of Congress have also had access to this evidence. Like my statement said, though, we know this. This report only makes it more abundantly clear to Congress that they must take more legislative action to demand transparency on the UAP topic on behalf of the American people. Myself and others who are aware of the truth are going to keep working to help Congress in their efforts to achieve disclosure. Lou Elizondo. Yeah. A lot said there. And I know there's a lot of people that have varying opinions on a lot of these figures, right? There's some people who love Chris and Lou and everybody, or some people who don't.
The factions, yeah.
That's that. So I want to be really clear. I'm focused solely on this report. I'm focused solely on my personal experience in life with the phenomenon, the experiences that have been shared with me by other people, my interactions with Paul, with Digby, all of you guys in the chat. We all know that these cowards have literally done it again. They've put another rung in their belt of lies, and we have to do something different this time. We have to, right? Like, I can release as many videos as I want, and boy, am I gonna do it. I have some plans after this report came out for some projects, because I'm furious. But we have to really try our best to find some sort of middle ground, some area of cohesion where all of us can come together despite our different ideas, whether you think it's interdimensional, whether you think they're fucking time travelers, or whether you think they're demons, whatever it may be. It doesn't change the fact that people are still seeing them. People are being abducted. People are having experiences with entities that are not human.
Yeah.
And guess what, guys? We can all come together and say one simple thing. Something is happening. That's it. It doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter all the ins and outs and speculations. That I very much enjoy that aspect of this, thinking that, well, could they be from here or there? That's fine. But we need to cut off some of the fat right now and just say, listen, something's happening on this planet that a lot of people have been seeing since literally the beginning of humanity, since the beginning of civilization. The Romans called them flying shields. I mean, they have been around this entire time. They have been watching us from day one, seemingly, right? We know they're there. We've seen photographs. We've seen videos. We have reports. We have fucking physical evidence. We have people with scars. We have, I mean, everything under the sun. So whenever anybody makes a statement that there's no evidence, I mean, you're just being disingenuous and you just don't belong in the conversation at this point. And I'm fucking tired of hearing it. Yes, there is evidence. Then you don't know the definition of evidence at that point. You have absolutely no clue what it says in the dictionary next to evidence. So disqualify yourself further from the conversation and just don't say anything at all, because you have nothing to add. You have nothing to add at this point. You know why I'm furious? Why I'm especially furious? Because there are people that I know throughout history, people that I know personally, that have literally they've been labeled lunatics. They've lost pensions. Christ, Paul,
imagine people that lost their government pensions because they broke their NDAs.
People have had to leave town. You know, like Lonnie Zamora.
People have been murdered for this.
And people have been nothing.
No.
The UFO subject, it's all bullshit. It's all smoke and mirrors. But they're killing people, and pilots aren't allowed to make reports or talk about it. But it's not real, right?
Right. I think one of the things that the Pentagon is operating under too, because it's very much reminiscent of the the Condon report.
Condon report. Yep, we're in Condon 2.0 right now. Yeah, definitely.
So I think what they underestimated is that in 1969 is when he, or 70s, or early 70s, whenever he put that report out, there was only 3 news outlets, and they could kind of monitor the narrative. what they haven't counted for, and they haven't adjusted their standard to, and I know this from personal experience because they operate everything like it's 1940. It's still on the same kind of theory. They didn't realize that there's so much information out there, that the world is so different from when they could just put out a report like this and not have any pushback or any, oh, case closed, that's it. All right, nothing to see here, move on. It just doesn't work anymore. So they didn't count on the backlash that they've gotten. Just look on UFO Twitter. It's blowing up with this. It's insane, and it's good. It's very good. So they're operating on 1950s standards, and we're the rest of the world still kind of moved on. So
yeah, good. Because again, I've said this so many times on so many episodes of our show, on Spaces, everywhere. There is the group of people that were having the more advanced conversation about this, and then there's the other group that is still arguing with itself on whether or not this is even real. Okay, like the condom report was funded from 66 to 68 by who? The U.S. Air Force.
Yep.
Who remains silent on this issue?
The Air Force.
U.S. Air Force.
Because they have no
come on,
leg to
guys.
stand on.
Guys.
They know if they released anything or if they talk about anything, they're literally perjuring themselves because
Yes.
and they don't want to do that. That's why
They don't want to open themselves up to that type of scrutiny.
Yeah.
What the government would probably really like to do, I mean, maybe some of it, but I think they would agree that they would love to be able to just get this information out without having to take any sort of responsibility, accountability, or any sort of blame for anything that's happened. They would love to make this look like this just started, that this is new, that there was no Roswell, that all of the stuff beforehand was just whatever, and that this is recent.
Yeah,
We
they
all
like
know
to
that's
act like
not true.
they like to think or say that they can't prove anything. Oh, everybody from Roswell's now dead. Of course, they had to wait to say that until 2016 when the last people had died.
Whenever they do anything like that, where they
Yeah.
seal up a file for 500 years or something, I'm like, gee,
Wonder why. Yeah.
would do that. And you made a good point before we went live that you and I kind of noticed that the reporting and the language that was used with the report's kind of interesting, because now some of the press outlets reported it as this AARO report found no evidence of non-human intelligence, but the report doesn't actually use that phrase, does it? It says
They never did.
extraterrestrial.
Yeah, actually, Sandy just brought that up in the chat. They said specifically extraterrestrial. In every line of it, they didn't bring up any other theory, like NHI. They didn't say ultra-terrestrial. They didn't say interdimensional. They didn't say anything but extraterrestrial. So read that how you will.
According to the viewer count up there, we have 173 people watching right now. So thank you everybody for being here. The last time we went live, it said 30. So that's interesting. There's a lot of people watching right now because I think a lot of people are fired up. Yeah, they're pissed off. They're pissed off. And it's just we really have to come together and try to do something. I had an idea for a video project. I'm going to be reaching out probably to everyone here. This is what I want. If you are following me on X, this would be the easiest way to go about it. I want you to take a video clip of yourself on camera if you're comfortable doing so, and if not, maybe an audio clip. I want you to either go on camera or take an audio clip of yourself saying, I have seen a UFO and the government is lying to us. If you really have seen one, okay? If you've never seen one, then you can just say the government's lying to us about UFOs. I want to make like a 1 minute
montage,
call to action video, a montage of person after person after person saying that. And then, at the end be like, they're all lying? All of them. The cops, military officials, David Grush, everybody, they're all liars. People who have no skin in the game, nothing to gain, more to lose by coming forward. Do you ever take that into consideration? There have been people who came forward with their accounts that knew that if they did, it would probably be better for them to just not talk about it. It was probably going to make their life a little crazy. They were going to be shunned and treated like a pariah in their own community. But why did they do it? Because they knew that if they said nothing happened, that was the lie and that something did happen. And that needs to be commended. I mean, There's been
think
talk
about
about reparations for people in this country for a lot of different reasons,
Yeah.
whether it has to do with racial inequality and things of that sort. And I get that, but what are we going to do as reparation to all of the people in this subject that were thrown under the
lost their
bus?
life.
What are you
Yeah.
going to do for them, Mr. Government?
Nothing. They won't do a thing.
No,
And
they're not.
think about who the report is calling a liar. So Matt Gaetz sees some really specific stuff. He brought up some things this week that are really interesting. The picture that they FOIA'd, they didn't even get it from Gates, but they got it from a FOIA request of the picture that was drawn of what the video in Florida. I think he went and saw.
You talking about the Eglin?
Yeah, he went. They recently released it. He said it had like a gunmetal top and like a glowing orange bottom, and
It's pretty cool.
yeah, it had just a hand drawn picture of the report from the guy that saw it, or the group that saw it. I think it was more than one.
I believe I may have
That image.
the image. I download things all the time. I might have it floating around, so I'll look around for it. But yeah, I saw that.
And how do you explain, like, if they didn't even touch really on the like the Tic Tac, the Nimitz incident, and the other videos that were out, but when you consider the Nimitz incident, and it's been through Congress, so it's now on record and it's under oath. So do they now go arrest David Fravor and Ryan Graves because the report said this, or that they perjured themselves? Do they arrest David Grush because he perjured himself because none of this was real? So it's really, really silly that they put this out.
It's going to get interesting.
Yeah.
Because someone's lying, right? The Inspector General said that
somebody is lying for sure.
The Inspector General said that David Grush's report was urgent, incredible, right? Urgent, incredible. And then this report comes out that, without saying the words, basically said none of it's true.
Yeah.
One of you is lying.
Both things cannot be true at the same time. Yeah, this is one of those cases. It's either one or the other.
So if we're going to go just by history, right? Are we going to believe David Grush and the whistleblowers, or are we going to believe the Pentagon?
Well, you can't believe the person telling the story, and that's the problem. We're controlling the narrative, and especially when they exercise that much control over who can come to the press release, who can ask questions. It's completely scripted. Nobody believes that crap anymore. Nobody believes mainstream media anymore because they do things like this. So they had nobody there to ask a question. Like, it was nothing but softballs. Oh, thanks for clarifying that, and let's move on. It was awful. So
it's really a joke.
It really truly is, and I think everybody's smart enough now, and I think that's what they didn't count on. They think the playbook from the 50s will still work, where they can just kind of come out, make this blanket statement, and then just move on. There's just too much information, and everybody knows they're lying. Everybody knows they're lying. The only hope that I can see is if the Congress actually does something to make really a blanket law, kind of like the Schumer Amendment. But I get the eminent domain in the Schumer Amendment. It's kind of that was maybe a bad move, but by the same token, I get why he put it in there.
I have to, I would agree with that. So I have the original. I mean, was this technically leaked? The Eglin Air Force Base drawing, was that a leak?
It was a FOIA request. That picture.
Oh, that was. You're right. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
FOIA. I forget the guy's name. I feel bad that I'm forgetting it, but it's in my post somewhere. It's a lot of information to remember, guys. I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
So we'll pull this up real quick because I also just so we can at least show you guys what we're talking about here. Man, I wish they would just have other present slides. Like, no, I just want to present images. Slides. The hell? We're not in school. So here we'll go here. Share. So that is the image we're talking about. This is this object. But someone did a 3D recreation of it, which is right here, which is kind of interesting. Now, at the same time, though, if I go into my bookmarks on X, of which there are thousands, There was an image that I saw. Now, this did not happen in the same area. If I recall correctly, this actually happened in Mexico, but I can't help but see a similarity in the objects here. So let me see. Let me go back to, we're doing things in real time. Let me see. Stop sharing. This, I don't have the video clip, but people are having trouble finding the video clip associated with it, but they have the images. And again, I don't know if it's real, but you guys will obviously, notice a similarity with this particular object here. So let me pull that up. There we go. Share. Right? Similar. Pretty close.
Actually, yeah, that's really close.
Odd morphology. Don't really know what I'm looking at. Could be real, could be fake. We live in a day and age where there's a difficulty now in deciding what's what because it's so easy to generate images with artificial intelligence, and same thing with video clips, Photoshop, etc. That's why I actually try and sift through images that I have found from like back in the day, right? Like that, like 90s photographs, 80s, 70s, etc. Like I try to find stuff that comes before like the age of Photoshop. I mean, the stuff that I'm able to make is absurd now.
That's what I love about
crazy.
like Dorothy Izot, I think how you pronounce her name.
Yes, I
Her
know
stuff
exactly
is
what
all
you're talking
completely
about.
updated because of the way she did it on that stupid video that camcorder she had. It was like impossible to fake, and she has like thousands of recordings of these things. She was kind of like a Chris Bledsoe before Chris Bledsoe came on the scene.
You see that right there?
Yeah, yep.
Fake.
Nothing to see here.
I made that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty convincing, right? You got the scratch marks, the Polaroid, and everything. Like that's the challenge we face right now, is that we are in this era where you can create that.
Well,
so
the question you should ask is this really some kid that's just like, yeah, let me put out a fake video, or is it real? Is it disinformation, Pentagon sponsored creations too? You know what I mean?
They're doing a really good job of muddying the waters. They have their tentacles of obfuscation that have infiltrated all platforms of social media. We know their names. We know who they are.
Yeah.
You and I talked about something.
Go ahead.
I'm not going to say it because there are legal ramifications, but I have mentioned this a couple times on the show. I have it's a screenshot. I have an image in one of my folders on my computer that, Jesus, man, if I had permission to release that,
that would be a bombshell.
It would be career ending for so-and-so.
Yeah.
And they're bullshit. But there's an active investigation going on behind the scenes, and I don't want to interfere with that. Come on, Tom, release it. It's for humanity. This is not one of those things. There's legal ramifications here. I've never been involved with something like this too, so like I'm also figuring all of that out. But I will say this: the minute that I get an email or a message from so-and-so that says, "Hey, you can go ahead and post that," you bet your ass I'm gonna post it with the biggest fucking smile on my face, because there are people out here that are getting paid to lie and to discredit and to debunk. Like a la guerrilla skeptics. Fucking cult. I mean, really. Yeah, that's another thing. We haven't really broached that too much here on the show. But Wikipedia is supposed to be a great open source platform for people doing research on a number of different subjects. Think of anything. And for you to go in there and to change where somebody was born and to remove their rewards and stuff is childish behavior. You should be ashamed of yourself. And these guerrilla skeptics, which is the name of their group, who the hell let them in the door? Why? Get them out of there. Don't send Wikipedia another $1 of your money for their fucking donations until they're kicked out. That's not you. But in the same breath, we can't then let guerrilla ufologists come in and do the same shit. It needs to be balanced. It needs to be, here are the facts as we know them. You can't let me or somebody else go in there and write a fucking opinion piece about UFOs and stick it on there like it's a fact. And you can't let Susan, whatever the hell her name is with that hat that she wears, go on there and, change Lou Elizondo's name to, Dickhead Mick Saucer. You can't do that on either side of this. You have to just, like, this is an award that this person received. This person studied at this university. This person graduated in this year. Just give us the facts. And yes, Sandy, listen, I've had good conversations with that individual, but there is some evidence out there that would seem to show that he may have some involvement with some of the things that have gone on in Wikipedia. And if that is the case, my respect for that individual is all but lost. I cannot condone that type of behavior on either side of this argument at all. You will not see me going on to Mick West or Stephen Greenstreet or whoever. I'm not going to go onto their page
and just defame them for the sake of
defaming them and deleting them. If they want an award, they want an award, right? They're a person just like I am. But if you did something wrong, or you're lying, or you're obfuscating the truth knowingly and actively, and I'm aware of it, I'm calling you out on your bullshit, as I would. If it were me, I'd expect all of you to call me out on my bullshit. I would. Yeah. I deserve it, right?
There's one thing people never take into account too, is that everybody talks about, the UFO grifters, the ones making money off this stuff, but they make chicken feed compared to the government sponsored UFO disinfo agent. I mean, Richard Doty made a ton of money because not to mention the CIA pays, media outlets, newspapers, to run certain things. They pay them a lot of money. That's their biggest customer. So yeah, they don't care if they lose, other readers out in the universe, but they care if they lose the government sponsor stuff. So that's a ton of money. So imagine the amount of money that this particular bad actor would get to switch, and that's pretty much what he did. So to start, blowing the horn.
A lot of weird 180s that I've seen there, right? Like, I remember when Greenstreet and Nick Pope started the basement office. And I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't know who Greenstreet is, but, I know Nick Pope. Seen him in a lot of stuff. And then all of a sudden, and then I go and do my own research on the points that are being made. And I'm like, this isn't really standing up to, like, a lot of scrutiny here. And not only that, but they keep arguing over the same shit over and over again. That has actually, it's got nothing to do with the existence of non-human intelligence or these objects. It's, well, ATIP was actually AARO. Well, but AARO was actually ATIP, which was then funded. I'm like, well, what the heck? I'm like, you guys are just arguing about names of projects and offices. That has nothing to do with anything, really, at the end of the day.
Even Elizondo came out and said, he goes, we started in the one with Colm Kelleher. I can't remember the name of that one. It wasn't ATIP. What was that one called?
OSAP.
OSAP, that's right. I was thinking of ASMOG or whatever, but yeah, OSAP. So they started with OSAP, and Elizondo was kind of affiliated with that, and then they carried it into an informal, and he even said it was an informal group of us that studied the reports that came in from the Navy and such. But just because it wasn't an official program that was government funded doesn't make it any less real. That's what I think Greenstreet has always missed the mark on that. But he keeps bringing that point up every time you see him. Every time. Oh, this is just bad reporting, and it's not true. So therefore, everything must be a lie. So it just doesn't make any sense.
It's a shame because I don't think Greenstreet is like an idiot of a person, right? I'm sure, growing up as a journalist and doing the things that he's done, same with Mick West and all that. Like, these guys have their talents, right? Like, and they're not dumb people, right? But like, I just, it doesn't make sense when someone does like a complete 180 like that. And then when someone is so desperate to destroy the narrative that this might actually be something anomalous, anytime anything gets released, it's like they have it ready. Like, I mean, it's quick. Like, I thought some of the information that came out against the jellyfish UAP the arguments against it and the
Suddenly,
arguments
the
for
next
it being
day,
a balloon. It was
you have the
so
balloon. You have a perfectly
quick.
shaped balloon. Yeah.
And that balloon was a mock-up done in
Yeah.
Photoshop. It's not
Right.
even real.
Not even real. They're just saying if balloons are arranged like this, it could be that. And then they just wrote off the whole thing.
So if I take my arms, right, and I go like, so am I now? I guess from a distance I could be a blurry pyramid.
You're an obelisk. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
an
that's pretty much
obelisk.
what they do. But one of the things like that people never it seems like in the media at least it's completely black and white. There's no gray area whatsoever. So you are if they find one thing that may be incorrect or data that's not perfectly crystal clear, then they just completely disregard the whole thing, which is not scientific to begin with, but it's just a stupid way of looking at it. And that's one of the things that irks me about like Neil deGrasse Tyson and things like that, because he'll take one little thing, oh, we have all these cell phones, so and we don't have a clear picture yet. It's like, well, come on, man. Like, really? There's a lot of clear pictures. Which ones are you, saying are real or fake? Woo
It's funny
Rider.
because I saw Neil was like positively talking about the mummies, and I just about passed out when I saw that. I was like,
Mm.
you mean to tell me that after all of these things that have been released, the one thing that you have something positive to say about is the mummies that or the mummies that are linked to Jaime Maussan. That's what you're going with.
That's the one you pick.
And there's a lot. I will say with the I'm no scientist, right? But we need. I mean, Digby and I, we were talking about this at length many times when we brought this up on the show. We need an international committee of the best damn scientists that this planet can offer to take a look at these things, because there's been new ones that have been released. Like there's this one that it had a really weird name too. That's very like insect-like, right? Like kind of mantid with proto wings and such. It's very strange. I don't have the resources or the means to be able to make any definitive conclusion on what those things are.
Was that a really small one?
It didn't look that small to me. Let me try to
There's one that
find.
was really tiny. I remember seeing that was weird.
Right.
But
Now, you told me something really interesting before the show. Now, again, we can't confirm any of this, right? And this isn't against anybody. It's just something that was shared and that Paul had seen, and it made me go, wait, what? I hadn't heard that before. What? Paul, you mentioned something about the Atacama mummy, Greer, Gary Nolan, and vetted. Why don't you go over that real quick? Because I was like, I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I was watching an episode of Vetted last night, which is a really good show. Check out his channel. He put out. They had a Twitter space with with Stephen Greer's the director of all of his documentaries, and he went on record during that space saying they were doing the little tiny mummy thing. It was like about that big, and they were saying that it's an abnormal child, or maybe 8 years old, but it was just very small, blah blah blah, and they kind of debunked it. And then the director, because he was making a movie with Greer at the time, went to him and spoke with Gary Nolan privately, and Gary told him, he goes, yes, he goes it's alien, he goes, because even if it is human, we don't know how it has all of these specific genetic anomalies, so it's alien. And of course, Gary Nolan immediately blocks the guy. The only comment I've seen him make is, I never said that, and that was it. But that guy promises, like swears, like, yes, Gary Nolan had said this about it. So there's a little controversy there, because I do like Gary Nolan and I trust Gary Nolan a lot for a lot of things. Him and like Eric Weinstein was the other one we brought up a little bit before the show. But like Eric talks about this exact same thing you're talking about, though, that we need every scientist in the world to be kind of looking at these things, or at least have an open source to where they can access these things if they want to investigate it. The problem with having the Pentagon do it is you have either a very limited number of people or PhDs that can actually look at these things, or none, and you just have literally soldiers kind of making these decisions. Yeah, that's good information. This is not. How are they going to know? And so he like Weinstein gets very frustrated. Him and Sam Harris too, because they were kind of strung along for a while, saying, we're going to provide you this stuff, and they never got it. And it just they got tired of waiting. They're like, "Yes, okay, it's been 6 months, and you've been promising me every week for you reach out to me, you call me every week to say, 'Oh, yeah, I got this for you, got this for you,' from the government,' and the government never provided anything for them, so they're like, 'Yeah, screw it.'"
Can't
And they
blame
got
them.
tired of
I
Yeah,
can't. Not
yeah.
at all. I can
Er
definitely sympathize with that.
yeah,
Absolutely.
Eric Weinstein still talks about that. He's like, "Yeah, there's it's just like, he goes, I felt like I was on a wild goose chase and nothing ever came to fruition." So, does that discount it? No, but he's like, "But we should have," and he said it so many times, "We should have the greatest minds in the world looking at an open source of the data and let them make the best decision possible." And I couldn't agree more.
So I just quickly went through some of my bookmarks uh, on X, so I can actually show you guys what I was referring to with this bizarre insectoid creature. There's follow me here because I haven't dug too deep into this, but I'll show you what I do have. And I find it's just really interesting, at least, again, true or untrue remains to be seen. I have no way of confirming or denying, but we're still going to look at it because it's still evidence that's being presented. And if it's bullshit, we need to find that out. But if it's
Mhm.
not, we especially have a job to do here in finding out what this is.
And the question
So,
remains, like, if it's all bullshit, then give it to everybody to dissect. You know what I mean? Like, why have to have anything covered if it's all crap?
you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. So now, some different measurements here on this thing. Um, that area in the back, but
Yeah, that's weird looking.
it's very strange. It has a name. So it's called Nikari. Okay, it is 49 centimeters. They're calling it an insectoid, possibly a female. 3 fingers on the hands, including 3 phalanges. Feet of 3 toes, including 3 phalanges. Presence of at least 2 ovoid shapes in the abdomen, probably eggs. Presence of at least 10 metal implants. Presence of 2 proto wings on the back, and the presence of a sort of shell on the dorsal part of the abdomen. That's weird. Now,
Yeah, that's
again,
freaky looking.
you could have these grave robbers that come out, and it's disgusting that they would go out, dig up the remains of God knows whose ancestors,
Yeah,
and put this sort of thing together to try to fool the public. Which, if that did indeed happen with these, that is atrocious, and they should be in jail for it. Um, Hold on a second. My camera is blurry. I'm gonna fix it in real time as I'm talking. Don't mind me. So this is where we need an actual team of scientists that really know what they're doing. The only thing I can do here is just look at it and be like, yeah, it's weird, but I don't know what it is. Like I don't have a way to check samples, or I don't have that,
yeah.
and I don't
The
have that knowledge.
spectrometer. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that. Now, this is where it gets interesting. These images apparently surfaced on the internet in 2008, I believe, which is actually the year that I graduated high school. Um, I had never seen these before. Very creepy, whatever the hell it is that I'm looking at, but there is some information that is associated with this from Vlad the Alien on X. Shout out to
Oh,
Vlad.
Vlad.
We've spoken a
Yeah.
couple times. Cool dude. Says photos of an alleged insectoid alien causing a lot of controversy, which unfortunately diverts attention from the autopsy report, which is the main piece of evidence. Pictures are only supplementary, and the report itself shouldn't be ignored, even if the images turn out to be fake. However, don't be too quick to dismiss them. Here is what is known about these photos so far. Photo first surfaced on the internet in 2008, and later in 2015, Russian UFO researcher Nikolai Sobotin posted the images with a comment. An old photo, and not the only one. I know the original source did not publish other photos. Now, this is a whole thread that Vlad went and did. He said Edward Agon, PhD in biochemistry, included them as a collage in his books about eusocial insectoids. He is convinced that they are authentic, as they match the morphology of insectoids described in the autopsy report, with an exception of one detail. More on that later. The images in the collage may have been digitally altered, as there is a hole in the head which is not present in the original image, which is also interesting to note. He says, now for the controversial part. Some people on X noticed that the hands in the picture are very similar to the hands from the xenomorph queen model, which we know what the xenomorph is, right? We all know what that is.
Yeah,
Exactly. Now, Vlad goes on to say that in his opinion, this similarity is not enough to conclusively debunk the bodies, but it is indeed raising suspicions. However, Edward Agon already noticed that it was the only body part in the photos which doesn't match the autopsy report, and he thinks that they were faked. The images were kindly provided by Sabatin. They depict the severed head of an insectoid from 3 angles. Apparently, the photos were taken during an autopsy, possibly under field conditions. A massive this is a very strange word that I've never seen before. A massive iphophore is visible from above. In one of the images, it resembles a tube described in Report 96 as hollow. This is reminiscent of the sonar used by dolphins and whales. In the foreground, a hand with a scalpel is visible, which may mislead regarding the size of the head, making it appear smaller than it actually is. However, the same image also shows the fingertip of another human hand, likely belonging to another person. Based on this, it can be assumed that the size of the creature's eye in the first image is approximately 3 to 4 centimeters, and the head itself, along with the iphophore, is at least 20 centimeters. The image shows paws sticking out from under the foil and attached to the iphophore, likely falsified. In Report 96, they are described differently. So there's a lot here to be looked at. Now, Vlad had made some assertions that those proto wings apparently were also present, I believe, on one of these beings that he's talking about from Russia. There may have been the presence of something similar in the morphology, which is really interesting.
yeah, that really looks crazy.
It's disturbing.
Yeah, it's hard to even
Some
tell
of
what
the
it
things
is.
that he talks about here. So now again, this is one of the things that's debated, right? There's this Russian autopsy report that is 27 pages in total.
Mm-hmm.
And he summarized it, and he said that the autopsy report describes an insectoid worker species reaching a length of 2.5 meters when its lower limbs are extended. These species are most closely related to termites. Their cells are much larger than the cells of known animals, and their sizes can reach 100 micrometers. A portion of its tentacle apparatus, not used for upper limb formation, has evolved into organs for breathing and vocalization. It's also bipedal, meaning walking on 2 feet. These creatures have developed exoskeletal structures, including limbs, due to climatic changes, facilitating locomotion and leading to increased brain development. Their blood system is advanced, with specialized vessels and organs dedicated to efficient circulation and oxygenation. Basically, proto-lungs. This allowed them to adapt to lower oxygen environments underground and actually grow in size. A la the ant people that the Hopi talk about. That's the thing that keeps going off in my head. They don't have a waste disposal organ. Instead, they secrete waste through their skin. That's why they have a terrible smell, which witnesses frequently report. Autopsy report contains much more specialized technical information, but I didn't include it because it wouldn't be readable for most people. If there are biology experts reading this, I will provide the links in the comments so you can dive deeper. Yeah, so what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be getting in contact with Vlad again, as we spoke a little bit. And
Yeah,
I
I
want
think
to look into this a little deeper. And whatever comes of it, right? Like,
yeah,
I'm
maybe
not
it's
trying
updated
to prove
information.
it or disprove it. I'm
Mhm.
trying to just figure out what it is. It's fascinating.
See, but this would 100% fall into the category of like ultra-terrestrial, crypto-terrestrial, not extraterrestrial, which is the specific verbiage they used in the Pentagon report.
Yeah,
So,
well, this might just be like something that's native to Earth, and if it lives
Mhm.
underground, now there are a lot of species on this planet that are already evasive. They like to
Mhm.
hide. They don't want to be found. Chameleons are good at it, right? Like we've already there's tons of insects and mammals that gotta really look for to find them. We know they're real. We have, you know what I mean? We have them in
Yeah.
museums and zoos and such.
A coelacanth.
You know, that type of thing. That's a good question in the chat. Why would you not give the info? Who cares if I don't understand it? So what I think he meant is that it was hard to understand because it was in Russian and some of it was like ripped off because it was like a screenshot of a paper. So it might not have been legible. But I'll ask him. I'll see if I can get him to post it. Just be like, hey, there's some people that still want to look at that and maybe try to decipher it, that's reasonable. I can sympathize with that, man.
Yeah, Vlad's cool. He's good to talk.
Yeah, Vlad is cool. He does good work. Now we're gonna get into the personal thing that happened to me now 3 days ago. Paul knows all about it. Any of you that saw my post from the other day, you know about it.
It's a good story, guys. Good story.
So I guess we'll just dive right into it. And what I'll do with the power of Photoshop and my right hand on the mouse, I was able to create a mock-up of what I saw. Let me see. I think it's in our UAPOD. Yeah, there it is. Okay. It's close, but it's not exact. But it's a really good depiction of what I saw. But I'll explain some details to be very, very, very exact, so that you guys can really, really understand what I experienced. So here it is.
Start at the beginning. I was driving home from work.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I was driving home from work. There is a back road. Hey! Look who it is!
Hey!
Look, I told him to interrupt us too. I told him to.
Did I pick a good moment?
It's
You picked an
perfect.
awful moment.
Good.
What's up, Digby?
Welcome, Digby. Yeah.
How you doing?
We have almost 300 people watching right now.
Do you? Oh, Jesus, look at that. You do. Paul,
We
how
do.
are you doing? Are you keeping my seat nice and warm?
I'm keeping it warm, buddy. We miss you.
Yeah, I miss you guys too. I just thought I'd drop in very quickly. I'm in my old pub. This is my old pub.
That's cool.
Oh, no kidding.
This bad boy used to be mine until I gave up all of it to
Wow.
become a UFO podcast host.
Living the dream, baby. Living the
Right.
dream.
So are you going to be here to hear the story too?
Yeah, I am. I'm gonna log off. I'm gonna watch it because there's loud music playing in the pub behind me. So I'm just thought I'd pop in, say hello, and then I'll listen quietly in a corner somewhere.
Awesome,
Love you,
man.
buddy.
Thank you for popping in. Everybody in the chat, I'm sure misses you, and we look forward to having you back next week.
I
man.
miss you all too. Next week I'll be there with bells on and maybe more hair.
Yeah, and me less. I'm shaving my head later, so.
Well,
Doing it
guys,
again.
keep up the great work and
good,
have
brother.
a wonderful show.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Digby.
man.
We love
See
you,
you
man. We'll
soon.
talk soon.
Take care. Bye.
Get out of here.
Yeah.